I will never forget the night that I wrestled with death. Now, I'm sure you would too if you were standing alone in a morgue with a dead body lying before you. As a hospital chaplain, I had seen many people die. And I had been down in that morgue more often than I ever really wanted to. But this death was different. This time, I had to die. King Darius has also seen plenty of deaths, mainly coming from his own hand. He had sentenced many people to die, and that was not the first time he saw a man cast down into a den full of starving lions. But that night, in the darkness of his palace, he realized that this death was different. This time, he had to die. I looked down at the body stuffed into that white, sterile bag, and I read the tag tied to the zipper. Mark Salander, age 31. He wasn't a drug addict who had overdosed. He wasn't some gang member who was shot. He could have easily had been my friend, my brother, and even my husband. He shouldn't have died. This wouldn't be the first time an innocent man had died, but I still so desperately wanted to save him. King Darius is having an excruciatingly long night. No food, no entertainment, and no sleep. He had been pacing back and forth in his palace chambers. The haunting image of his faithful servant, one of his top administrators, an Israelite exile named Daniel. Daniel never stole any money. He never abused his power, and he never betrayed his king's trust. He shouldn't have died. He was innocent. And the king desperately wanted to save him. If you ever have the opportunity to be a chaplain in a hospital, you might be called several different names. Pastor, reverend, clergy lady, clergyman, holy roller, and several different and less flattering other names. The doctors and nurses and patients would come up to me and begin conversations like this. Pastor, since you have a better connection between here and up there, could you possibly, or chaplain, I know that your prayers go deeper and further into heaven. Could you possibly, yes. This happened several times, and I would simply smile, a little embarrassed for both me and the person speaking. Now, they meant well and did it with the best intentions, but when you hear such flattering words over and over again, they can often go to your head. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved it when the hospital staff would call me up, seeking my pastoral presence, my chaplain care. They depended on me in the worst imaginable situations. They needed me. But then the prideful voices became hungry for power. They started to manipulate my mind and my thoughts. Maybe I do have the perfect prayer for every possible patient. Maybe I've got some divine touch, the healing hands. Maybe I've got the power. However, it seems that pride only gives the illusion of power. King Darius, the successor of the great Babylonian king Belshazzar, is reorganizing his kingdom. He has hundreds of governors and administrators, and he has three main voices whom he trusts, one being an Israelite. However, this kingdom, like its predecessors, continues to experience corruption and exploitation. You see, pride is a crafty, deceitful creature, thirsty for glory and hungry for power. It will prey on the weak-minded with manipulation and trickery. This time, its victim is King Darius. Pride begins by carving its way through the kingdom, getting each leader and ruler to sign a new ordinance. The men carrying this disease return to their king with a platter full of sweet, seductive words, tickling the ears of the king with flattery. O king, you will truly live forever. There is none greater than you. You should be worshipped by all people at all times, for you are a God king. Your name should be lifted above the heavens. So naturally, King Darius signs on the bottom line without reading the fine print. If only he knew that pride only gives the illusion of power. My pride is still swelling that morning I walked into ICU room number 3 and found a young man on life support. I read his chart, Mark Salander, age 31. His wife, his kids, and his family are sitting all around him. I introduce myself and listen to their painful reality. Mark was on his way to work yesterday morning, as usual, and then he got sideswiped by an SUV on I-35. The doctor comes in with a bleak diagnosis. Mark is terminal. There is no hope. The family looks at me and asks for a prayer of healing. And so I pray. I pray holding their hands around his bed. I even read Psalms 23 as they're sipping on their coffees. All day long, I pray and I pray and I pray for a miracle. But the law of death is beyond my clergy power. King Darius sits satisfied with his new decree on his royal throne, and in walks his ravenous rulers with devastating news about Daniel. They inform Darius that Daniel is indeed on his deathbed. Daniel was carrying on with his normal prayer routines when he got sideswiped by the fancy new ordinance. King Darius, devastated, tries pulling all the strings that he could. All day he races around town looking for a loophole, looking for a way to save Daniel. He tries and he tries and he tries to find a miracle. But this law of death is beyond his kingly power. That evening, the family says their goodbyes. And I have to helplessly watch life leave Mark's body. I do not have the perfect prayer or some divine touch. I'm helpless. I was powerless. All I had to give was deep sympathy and a simple response. May God continue to be with you in this dark hour. death can be painfully humbling. Dusk has arrived, and Darius watches the guard take Daniel towards the den. He has run out of options. He has run out of hoops to jump through. He throws up one last Hail Mary and cries out to Daniel and says, "May your God, whom you serve, continually deliver you." For Darius, the thought of Daniel's death was painfully humbling. I'm still staring down at Mark's body in the coldness of that morgue. And then my phone rings. The family has decided to donate Mark's body, and the organ collector is right outside. So I wheel his body out of the morgue, and I see a smiling man at the end of the door. He says, "Wow, Chaplain, it looks like you've had a long night." I can see the morning breaking through the window nearby. It felt like I had been in that morgue for an eternity. In my fatigue, I reply with little enthusiasm, "Well, you see, death will do that to you." He smiles widely. "Chaplain, you have no idea how long we have been waiting for this match. Chaplain, today someone will have new life." Dawn has arrived, and Darius can bear his palace tomb no longer. He races to the den without his crown or his kingly robe, and he calls out for God's deliverance. Daniel cries up out from below, "O King, live forever, for my God has brought salvation." The king is exceedingly glad. He begins to cast down his pride into the den of lions, and then he proclaims to the world that I now know the King of life, the King who endures forever, the living God. His kingdom shall endure forever, and his dominion shall have no end. I look at the organ collector, astonished by this revelation. My God of life has indeed delivered me from death. He has rescued me from the jaws of pride, and now I can finally see the miracle of his sovereignty. You see, death will surely come for everyone, even kings and clergy. But in the morning, God will bring salvation. Amen.